Hello everyone, good day. So the topic of our group is all about chapter 2, which is all about art, elements, and the principles of design. So we all know naman na in the daily life of the ordinary man or parehas kita is our life was crowded with diverse interests and increasingly complex demands. Of course, naadyo'y few months or few busy months, weeks, days, or hours, or bisag maabot pa nag year, but bisag busy ta is masingit man gihapon ang art without us knowing, di ba? So, bisag unsa pay trabaho nato or atong mga ganahan sa atong life is we all know that ang art jud is not replaced or naa jud ang art bisag di nato mapansin naa jud ang art. So, for example, di ba? We love taking pictures and listening to music. That's an kanang kind of art food, di ba? Form of art. So, di na mapansin pero we love art. So, of course, kung asa ta na field na maayo jud ta, right? Expert jud ta sa atong mga gusto. But, na-adjure part, like us lagi nga every ordinary person is, like makaingon ka, di man jud ko ganahan ng art, but makahimo kag artwork na makaingon ka, oh, okay man day. So, makaingon ka nga, I appreciate art. So, for example, a beautiful room. Ikaw naglihok ana, so makaingon ka, okay. So, ma-appreciate nato in our own little way or in our own fashion way, ma-appreciate gihapon nato ang art. So, the learning outcomes of our report is to be able to differentiate an artist with artisan. Next, identify the medium and techniques used by the artist. Explain and cite example of performance art. And last, to discuss the different principles of design. Okay, lesson 1. So, the artist and the artisan. So, tong una, before pa niabot ang Industrial Revolution, virtually is tanan, kahimo pa kasagaran dyan sa mga artisans, like, gikan sa mga smiths, sa weaver, inanag sa mga potters, di ba? In other places dyan, tong una, kay, di dyan mawa ang agi sa mga artisans, kay, for example, ang mga farmers, they know how to paint. Nga mga sculpture po, dapat sila ilaing work, nga katigo po sila mo farm. So, makita dyan sa ilang agi gihapon, ang agi sa ilang pagka-artisan. So, kanang art is everywhere. So, una, makita dyan, bisag, asa. So, para sa ila, the act of creation of beautiful things is second nature. So, natural ra jud ni sa ila. So, now we will be able to know the difference between an artist and an artisan. So, an artist is considered to be a person with the talent and skills to conceptualize and make creative works. So, such persons are singled out and prized for their artistic and original ideas. So, ang artist is sila ang naa-ani nga skills, sila ang naa-ani nga creative thoughts or ideas nga maka-envision nga kini dapat inani ang agi-ani. Beautiful dapat ni. Inani ang position ani, ang pagka-paint ani. So, that's the work of an artist. So, ang ilang artwork, kay pwede siya in any form, and pwede po siya mo fit into numerous categories like architecture, ceramics, digital arts, drawings, mixed media, paintings, photographs, prints, sculpture, textiles, and many more. So, an artist are the individuals who have the desire and ability to envision, design, and fabricate the images, objects, and structures we all encounter, use, occupy, and enjoy every day of our life. So, without us knowing, ang ato mga gigamit ay everyday is himoday na sa artist, di ba? Inana na siya. So, sila ang naa-anang original idea or pwede po matawag nga inventor ana nga idea. So, next, an artist is dedicated only to the creative side. So, muna ko giingon, sila ang mo Imagine nga, ani dapat ang gawas ani. Making visually pleasuring work only for the employment and appreciation of the viewer but with no functional value. So, no functional value. I mean, ato na siya i-display. Pero di na to siya magamit. Mura siya inana pero nindot siya sa atong pananaw. So, artists make art and once that art is made, they make more. So, for example, ang usa ka artist is na siya enough na artworks or masterpiece. So, and nakuha na siya equipment para maghimo na pod. So, iyang gisink nga, ako ni picturean, ako ni i-post. So, wala siya nagdahom na pag-post niya is damo day gaganahan. So, nakaboost ni siya sa iyang confidence nga, okay, maghimo pa kog damo, di ba? Mao nang maghimo pag damo ang mga artists. And pero bisagin ani kay we should accept the reality because nobody escapes the truth na ang art is panapanahon lang jud na. Nay times nga moigbaw na jud times nga moubos pod. So mao na ang laing artist is na sila laing work pod or if ever nga di na jud nila ma-pursue ang ilang mga artwork or masterpieces if mo balhin sila sa laing work or mag-stop anay sila sa ilang career. Next is ang artisan. So, an artisan is essentially a manual worker who makes items with his or her hands and who through skill, experience, and talent can create things of great beauty as well as being functional. So, in other words, ang artisan is sila ang hands-on. Sila mismo ang mubuhat ani nga item using their hands through their skill, experience, and sa ilang talent. So, an artisan or craft person or skilled worker, for example, they may produce decorative or utilitarian art such as quilts or basket, but dili sila ang naanang original idea ana nga maghimo ana nga item. Like, sila ang for example, sila yung nag-produce ana nga item but they are not the inventor and dili gikan sa ilang original idea para makahimo ana nga item. So, an artisan can also be someone who creates his own design. So, pwede man di ay gihapon o maghimo own designs but there's a but. Does not work in art forms or with materials traditionally associated with the so-called fine art such as painting and sculpture. So, wala sila follow nga pattern. So, kung ganahan sila maghimo usa ka artwork, so maghimo ra sila. So, mohimo ra sila own design nila. Kay ganahan sila, nisud ra sila unahuna pero wala sila ni base sa any kanang idea sa fine art. So, ang ila ra kay mga fashion jewelry, mga inana, mga blogas into patterns, di ba? Mga objects of nga sila ray makabuot. And next, okay, medium and techniques of artists. So, ang medium, it depends on the artist. Dili ang artist ang mag-depend sa available nga medium. So, ang medium are ang materials na gi-use sa mga artists in able to produce an artwork. So, medium depends on the artist because sila'y mupili sa materials na masakto sa iyang plano para ana nga artwork to be able to bring out the qualities that an artist wants to show. So, an artist must love, respect, and understand sa iyang gigamit nga medium or materials para mapadali ang iyang paghimo ana nga artwork and also to improve his skill and to have a great masterpiece. So, first, a medium is the material used by an artist to express his or her feelings or thoughts. So, in other words, amo ni ang gigamit sa artist in order to make an artwork. So, ang materials na gigamit. So, pwede ang artist mo gamit og usa ka medium or more than one medium. So, pag mo pili og medium ang artist, he believes that his choice can best express the idea he wants to convey. So, now po time like what I have said, nga dili ra usad jud ang gamiton nga medium sa usa ka artist. So, they use one or more medium to give meaning to his creative production. So, the artist thinks, feels, and gives shape to his vision in terms of his medium. So, of course, if by medium, di ba, ang gilantaw sa usa ka artist nga artwork is dili jud mabuhat. So, the medium of art is classified into the visual arts and the auditory arts, or both. So, pwede so visual arts sa ato ra makit-an and the auditory arts is atong madunggan, or pwede pud siya both. So, visual arts are those whose mediums that can be seen and which occupy space. Okay, next. So, here, we will be able to know the two classes of visual arts. So, first, the dimensional art or two-dimensional art, or also called as an 2D. So, gitawag ni siyang two-dimensional art or 2D ra kay it means that the composition of that artwork possesses only two dimensions, the length and the width. Wala siya depth. So, which includes the painting, drawing, printmaking, and photography. Like aning three-dimensional art or 3D, tulo na siya ka-dimensions. Like, naibaw na sa iyang name. Na siya height, width, o depth. So, na siya kalawom nun. So, na siya depth. So, for example, sculpture, architecture, landscape, industrial designs, and crafts like furniture. So, next, the auditory arts. So, are those whose mediums can be heard and which are expressed in time. So, example, is ang music. So, we all know that ang music is the art of arranging sounds in time so as to produce a continuous, unified one, evocative composition as through melody, harmony, rhythm, and timbre. So, pwede po siya vocal, instrumental, melody, harmony, and rhythm. Okay, next. So, both ang visual art ug ang auditory art are those nga ang materials or mediums can be both seen and heard and which exist in both space and time. So, last is the technique. So, the technique is the manner in which the artist controls his medium to achieve the desired effect and the ability which he fulfills the technical requirements of his particular work of art. So, in other words, the technique is the way on how an artist or an artisan handles the medium that he or she is going to use. So, ang technique is ang way para dili ma-fail, dili masayang, or dili maunsa ang usa ka materials or usa ka medium nga gamiton sa usa ka artist.
Hello everyone, good day, especially to you, sir. I am Judy Lenis Adukal, and today I am going to tackle about the techniques related to paintings. Some of the techniques are used by the artist in paintings. First, we have the encaustic. The medium for the powdered color is hot wax, which is painted onto a wood surface with a brush. It is smoothed with a metal instrument resembling a spoon, and then blended and set over a flame to soften and set the colors into the wood. So in this method, encaustic produces durable colors and permits sculptural modeling of the paint surface because of the wax medium. The colors are semi-translucent and look fresh and lively. It was first used by ancient Greeks and Egyptians. This technique is rarely used today. The second, we have the fresco-seco. In the dry plaster or fresco or seco technique, pigments are usually mixed with water, although other substances might also be used. The paint is applied to a dry plaster bowl which has been wetted down with water. Since the plaster is relatively dry, it is non-absorbent and the pigment adheres to the surface of the plaster. So the advantage of these techniques are that the paintings can be done more slowly and carefully, and changes can be made simply by one painting since the colors are opaque. Next, we have Seco. This is also known as buon fresco or true fresco, which entails painting on freshly spread, moist plaster. First layers of wet. The artist applies to the colors, which are earth pigments mixed with water. The colors penetrate the wet plaster and combine chemically with it, producing a painted surface which does not peel when exposed to moisture. So, the painting must be done rapidly without mistakes. It produces a matte surface with fairly desaturated colors. The technique was protected in Renaissance Italy. Fresco is a more rural painting technique that involves painting with water-based paint directly onto wet plaster so that the paint becomes an integral part of the plaster. Next, the egg tempera. In this method, the pigment is mixed with egg yolk or both the yolk and white of an egg. It is thinned with water and applied to a gesso or plaster mix with a binding on a panel. It was also used on parchment or paper to illustrate or embellish books in the era before the 15th century development of the printing press. This type of painting dries very quickly and produces an opaque, matte surface. The colors tend to dry to a lighting value than they appear when with egg. Tempera was used for panel painting until the 15th century. Tempera also refers to the painting done in this medium. Next, the mosaic. The design is created by small pieces of colored glass, stone, or ceramic called tesserae embedded in wet mortar which has been spread over the surface to be decorated. Their slightly irregular placement on a surface creates a very lovely, reflective surface when reviewed at a distance. This was often used to decorate walls, floors, and ceilings. Mosaic is the decorative art of creating pictures and patterns on a surface by setting small colored pieces of glass or other materials. Next is the oil paint. Prior to the 15th century, oil paints were thick and hard to control, so they were initially used only for utilitarian purposes. In the 15th century, turpentine was discovered to be an effective thinning agent. The Van Eyck brothers was credited with perfecting the technique of oil painting, which they initially attempted to be selected. Powdered colors are mixed with a fine oil. So the oil paint can be applied to a prepared ground, usual stretch canvas with a coating of neutral pigment. The earliest technique of oil painting involves building up layers of colors, moving from darker to lighter value. And last, we have the watercolor. Powdered pigments are mixed without gum arabic or a similar substance that will help them adhere to a surface. The artist then mixes them with water and applies them to a ground, usually paper, with a soft brush. So this method, the watercolor, was the most important method of painting in China and Japan from an early date, but did not become popular of European artists until after the 16th century. There are more than one way to approach laying watercolor wash. You can either do it on a wet surface or a dry one. That's all, and thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. I am Rachel Mi Arsena from Bitabited FSM 3A, and today I am going to continue the topic about the techniques related to painting. So now let's move on to acrylic. So acrylics are the artificial compounds developed in the 20th century. So the binder used includes water and paints. It can be thinned with water, but once the paints dry, they have a glossy permanent surface that resembles the surface created by oils. So these paints can create most of the effects accomplished in oils and have the advantage of not requiring the use of turpentine. So when we say turpentine, mao ni siya ang mo-help to dry paints faster. So kay ang acrylic is dali ra man siya mo dry, no need na siya magamit og turpentine which is toxic. And then ang naka-disadvantage pud sa acrylics kay once nga ma-mix na nimo ang retarding agent sa paint, it will dry much more quickly. But since many artists prefer to acrylics to be able to rework the colors, so many prefer oils to acrylics. However, many modern artists do choose acrylics. So we have next is the collage. So collage. So the word collage, it comes from the French verb coller, meaning to paste. So in this technique, photographs, news clippings, or other objects are pasted on the painting surface and may be combined with painted areas. So the cuttings and objects may be selected for their associative or representational values, or for the formal and textural qualities of the result. So the technique was first accepted as a legitimate medium that could augment or be substituted for painting in fine arts in this century. So one of the first examples was executed by Pablo Picasso. So the example of that is the picture beside. So that was the one of the first examples, and it was executed by Pablo Picasso. So other artists using this technique include Braque, Max Ernst, and Kurt Schwitters. So we all know that collage is an artwork made up of assorted materials glued to a paper, board, or canvas. So some collages have include newspapers, clippings, photographs, pieces of fabric, and solid objects, among many others. So ako na siya gisulti ganiha. Then according to Google, Pablo Picasso and George Braque were the first to use collage as a method for creating innovative art. So we have next is the drawing. So the drawing materials and methods of drawing are the most basic tools of the artist and the designer. Work that is intended to be executed in almost any material, paint, stone, steel, or fabric. So may first be envisioned in a drawing. However, this basic character of drawing skills may tend to trivialize what can be a highly developed art in its own right. So, however, there are some characteristics of drawing that make it particularly attractive to the artist in many situations. First is drawing materials are very portable. So, meaning to say, ang kanisyang mga materials nga ato gamiton sa drawing is madala-dala ra siya bisag asa, so we can draw anywhere. So that is why it is possible to bring these materials out of the studio to the to the workplace or the client, wherever the artist wishes to use his ability to make images. So this anywhere we can draw, because the materials that we use in drawing are very portable. So also, since the materials are so portable at a minimum, a sketch pad and a pencil or pen drawings tend to have a kind of uh, immediacy and an intimate quality that cannot often be seen in painting or printmaking. So it is possible to capture the candid moment, the action of the mood, without the obtrusive paraphernalia required for other methods. So when used in this way, the drawing may also be a more economical way to capture an idea that may simply remain a drawing or may later be developed in the studio in another medium. So we can draw anywhere man jud, no. So if we can see kanang mga things nga para nimo is nice siya, then imo na siya pwede ma-draw nimo, kay you can only use sketch pad or pencil man sa drawing, unlike sa painting kay you need to kuan na pa makay daghang mga materials nga gamiton, and dili siya dali madala-dala, dili siya portable ang mga materials in painting. So it is very different sa drawing, kay we can draw anywhere. So next is the printmaking. So a print is anything printed on a surface that is a direct result from the duplication process. Ordinarily, a painting or graphic image done in black ink on white appear and becomes the artist's plate. So ang advantage of printmaking is the process of making copies of the original drawing. So we can make another copies of the original drawing. So look at the picture. So yung ana ilahang way sa pag-print making. So kuan kayo na siya kanang proseso kayo siya, kay first is mag-drawing pa na ang designer, din ila pa na i-trace face. So unlike karon na ano nandiyo tayong mga printer, diba? So we can make copies as many as we can. So our life karon is very easy na lang because of the new technologies. But before, grabe jud kaayo kanang handmade jud nila nga pag print. And then we have the we have 5 major types of prints. So we have the relief. So relief prints are made by removing material from the matrix. So when we say matrix, mao ni siya ang mohold sa ink, which is then transferred to paper. So mao ni siya ang mohold sa ink para nig-transfer sa paper. So the surface that images have been carved into, which is often wood, linoleum, or metal. So the remaining surface is covered with ink or pigment, and then paper is pressed into the surface. So picking up the ink, and then letterpress is a relief printing process that transfers ink to paper, but also indents an impression into the surface of the paper. So it creating a texture to the print is often considered a sign of a high texture. So we have the intaglio prints. So intaglio prints, they are made when design is scratched into a matrix, usually a metal plate. So ink is wiped across the surface and collects in the scratches. Excess ink is wiped off, and paper is pressed onto the plate, picking up the ink from the scratches. So intaglio prints may also include texture. Next is stencil prints. So stencil prints, they are made by passing inks through a porous fine matrix. And then we have the woodcut. So woodcut, this kind of technique of printing designs from planks of wood in size parallel to the vertical axis of the wood's grain. So it is one of the oldest methods of making prints from a relief surface. It has having been used in China to decorate textiles since the 5th century. So in Europe, printing from wood blocks on textile was known from the early 14th century, but it had little development until paper began to be manufactured in France and Germany. So at the end of the 14th century, cuts with heavy outline and lateral shading. So as the Christ before Herod may date from 1400, while the earliest dated print of German origin is the St. Christopher print of 1423 from the Boxheim Monastery in Bavaria, Austria, and Bohemia. Religious images and playing cards were first made from wood blocks in the early 15th century. So, and the development of printing from movable type lead to widespread use of woodcut illustrations in the Netherlands and in Italy. With the 16th century, blackline woodcut reached its greatest perfection. So in the early 19th century, it was replaced by wood engraving, which reproduced paintings and sculpture more easily and accurately than did woodcuts. So we have the next is the engraving. So in engraving, the design is cut into metal with a graver or boren. So the boren is a steel rod with a square or lozenge shaped section and a slightly bent shank. So the cutting is accomplished by pushing the boring into the metal plate. So the deeper it penetrates into the metal, the wider the line. The variations in depth create the swelling, tapering character of the engraved line. So after the engraving is finished, the slight bar raised by the graver is cleaned off with a scraper. So a scraper. Then we have the Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan Award or GAMABA. So Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan Awards or GAMABA, it is an award that acknowledges folk and indigenous artists who despite the modern times remain true to their tradition. So it is administered by the National Commission for Culture and the Arts or NCCA through Gawad sa Manlilikha ng Bayan Committee. GAMABA began as a project of the Philippine Rotary Club Makati Ayala. In 1992, it was adopted by the government and institutionalized through Republic Act number 7335. So this award aims to support and motivate these artists to preserve their artistic heritage for the present and future generations. So these artists are also recognized as the country's national living treasures. So as a group, these folk and traditional artists reflect the diverse heritage and cultural traditions that transcend their beginnings to become part of our national character. So as Filipinos, they bring age-old costumes, crafts, and ways of living to the attention and appreciation of Filipino life. So they provide us with a vision of ourselves and of our nation. So a vision we might be able to realize someday once we are given the opportunity to be true to ourselves, as these artists have remained truthful to their art. So they are our national living treasures. So here under some of the GAMABA awardees under work of arts. So we have first is the Darhata Sawabe. So Darhata Sawabe, she is a Tausug weaver of Pes Shabet, the traditional cloth tapestry worn as a head cover. So muna siya si Darhata Sawabe. So, and next we have Eduardo Motok. So Eduardo Motok, he is an artist from Apalet, Pampanga, who has dedicated his life to creating religious and secular art in silver, bronze, and wood. So these are the example. Siya ang mo-create siya og mga mga statue sa mga religious kanang mga statue sa church, mga ingin iyahang mga iyang himuon. So we have next Haja Amina Api. So she recognized as master mat weaver among the Sama indigenous community for her unique design, straightness of her edging or tabig, and fineness of her sasa and kema. So we have next is Alonso Saklag. He is a Kalinga master of dance and the performing arts who mastered not only the Kalinga musical instruments but also his dance patterns and movements associated with his people's ritual. And we have Federico Caballero, a Sulud Bukidnon epic chanter from Kalinog, Iloilo, who ceaselessly works for the documentation of the oral literature, particularly the epics of his people. So next we have Uwang Ahadas. So he is a Yakan musician who is a master of the kwentangan, kayo, and tuntungan instruments. And we have Langdulay, a Tibuli traditional weaver of tinalak or Tibuli cloth made of colorful abaca fabrics. And we have Salenta Munon, a Banua Bagobo traditional weaver of distinct abaca fabrics called Inabal. And we have Ginaw Bilog, is a Hanunuong Mangyan poet who is considered as a master of Ambahan poetry. And last is Masino Intaray, so a prolific and a preeminent epic chanter and storyteller, recognized for his outstanding mastery of various traditional musical instruments of the Palawan people such as basal, kulilal, and bagil. So those are some of the Gamaba awardees and their works. So that would be all. Thank you for listening.
Good morning everyone, especially to our teacher. Good morning sir. I am Chris Aringoy from Bitibitin FSM 3A. So my topic is all about performance art. Performance art is an interdisciplinary art, brings together elements of time, space, bodies, and audiences. The performance art can be live or via media. The performer can be present or absent. It can be situation that involve four basic elements: time, space, the performer's body, or presence in a body, and relationship between performers and audience. Performance art can happen anywhere, in any type of venue, or setting, and for any length of time. The performance art refers to the form of art where an artist uses his own body and presents. So performance art, it involves two or more arts. Performance art include movement, sound that is presented by the performer to the audience in any time and anywhere. Because art includes culture, beliefs, etc. And the artist will use his own face, body, and presence. Next is major types of performing art. Number 1. Music is a form of art whose medium is silence and sound. Music was derived from the Greek word musik, which means the art of Moses. The common elements of music includes rhythm, pitch, dynamics, timbre, and texture. The performance, creation, significance, and definition of this art depend on the social context and culture. Music can range from the organized composition up to improvisational music to aleatoric form. Music can be assorted into different genres, subgenres, although the division of these genres are usually vague and subtle. It also said that there is a very strong connection between mathematics and music plays an important part of our lives. So music use silence in sound, no? So it is the choice of composer kung unsay ang buhat nga sounds or unsay ang genre. Then nasa uban mga music nga hard to understand na kung unsay ang purpose para asa siya nga music. And then strong connection between mathematics and music. Yes, because music have pitch, then timbre, and other that you need to count to have a good sound. Plays an important part of our lives because some music are related to real life. The next, number 2 is opera. It's a form of performance art wherein musicians and singers perform a dramatic work that combine text, which is called the libretto and musical score. This form of art is popular of the Western classical music tradition. The art incorporates a lot of elements, spoken theater, including scenery, acting, and costumes. Sometimes it also includes dance. The performance is in opera is usually done in opera house. Opera is originated in Italy in 16th century. It soon spread to the rest of Europe as it gained popularity. So, opera is a dramatic work that is presented by the musician and singer combined with text which is called libretto. So, libretto means the words of an opera or musical. So, it looks like using every word that you speak. At the same time, you act on it. And sometimes it includes dance, but in dramatic situation. It originated in Italy and spread to Europe. Then the European artists make their own and it makes more popularity. So next is, so number 3, dance is a form of performance art that refers to the art of moving body rhythmically and usually in accordance to music. It is used as a form of social interaction and expression, or it is commonly presented in a performance or spiritual settings. It also seen as a form of nonverbal communication. And some people consider even the movement of limbs as a form of dance, while some even consider materials art, like karate as a one of it. Can also be social, participatory, and performed for an audience. It can as well be erotic, ceremonial, or competitive in purpose. Nowadays, dancing has evolved into many styles. These styles include ballet, breakdancing, and cramping. Nevertheless, each type of dance, whether what style, has something that is common. It does not involve the usage of human body kinetics and flexibility, but also physics. So dance is an art of moving the body rhythmically in accordance to music. So you're moving your body with accordance to music. So it is social interaction and expression because when you dance, you're showing that you're happy or showing love or even spiritual purpose. So and it's also non-verbal communication because sometimes when you watch someone dancing, you can understand what is dance or what is the purpose of that dance. So it's one of the non-verbal communication. So number 4, drama. It refers to a mode of fiction represented in a performance. The word drama originates in from Greek word draw, which means action. Drama are usually enacted by the actors on a stage for an audience. The structure of the text for drama is usually influenced by collective reception and collaborative production. Masterpieces that can be considered to be in this form include the classical Athenian tragedy Oedipus, The King of Sophocles, and Hamlet of William Shakespeare. So drama is a mode of fiction. Nowadays we can watch a lot of dramas which is there is an actor that act for the situation. So, if you're the actor of these 5 major types of performance art, you need to have more talented or having all the human skills to be a good performer or actor. So, in number 5, spoken word is often used as an entertainment or musical term, referring to works that are intended to be performed by a single person who will speak by himself naturally, musically. This is different from rapping for a letter. Involves writing, while spoken words do not follow such. Spoken word is said to be more akin to speaking or narration. In entertainment, spoken word performance are consist of poetry, storytelling, or speeches. Aside from these 5, other form of performance art are circus, performance, magic, musical, and other that involve the use of an artist's face and body. Transcreation is a term used chiefly advertising and marketing professionals to the process of adapting a message from one language to another while maintaining its intent, style, tune, and context. A successfully created message carries the implication in the target language as it does in the source language increasingly. Transcreation is used in global marketing and advertising campaigns as advertisers seek to transcend the boundaries of culture and language. While in theory, any message is a candidate for transcreation, the bulk of transcreative work performed to date has been in the advertising industry, in media such as brochure, TV, and radio ads aimed at the end clients, and poster and flyers distributed to resellers. Websites are also the subjects of much transcreation. So it seems that you have to find another language that suit to the given language, but increasingly of meaning. So the transcreation is used to the market industry for getting more client by making advertise and enhancing the word to be more attractive or meaningful by the use of different media form. So that's all. Thank you.
So now, kay human naman tag-discuss tanan sa lesson 1, let us recap kung unsa ang na-discuss sa pamaagi sa usa ka quiz. So let us test ourselves kung na ba jud tay na-learn sa gi-discuss sa mga reporters. So first question, so a tausog weaver of peace yabit. So kinsa man ni siya? A. Haja Amina Api, B. Uwang Abadas, C. Darhata Sawabi, or D. Salinta Monon. So, kinsa man ni siya? So, at tausog weaver of Pishabit is Darhata Sawabi. Okay, next question. So, Asulod Bukidnon, epic chanter from Kalinog, Iloilo. So, kinsa na pod ni siya? A. Is it Federico Caballero? B. Lang Zulay? C. Ginaw Bilog? D. Masino Intaray. So, the answer is A. Federico Caballero. Next, they are made by passing inks through a porous fine mesh matrix. So, what kind of print is this? So, A. Is it intaglio print? B. Woodcut? C. Stencil prints? Or D. Engraving? So, klaro na kayo siya sa question pa lang daan. So, the answer is none other than stencil prints. Okay, next. Number 4. The most basic tools of the artist and the designer. So, unsa man ni siya? If naminaw budget ta. So, is it A. Collage, B. Drawing, C. Watercolor, or D. Acrylic? So, the answer is the most basic tools of the artist and the designer is, of course, drawing. Okay. Next, number 5. This design is created by small pieces of colored glass or stone. Okay, unsa man ni siya? Atong didikit-dikit. So, A. Fresco, B. Egg tempera, C. Mosaic, or D. None of the above. So, unsa man ni siya? Klaro na kayo sa answer, no? So, the answer is C. Mosaic. Okay. Next. This refers to the process of adopting a message from one language to another, while maintaining its intent, style, tone, and content. So, is it A, performance art, B, transcription, or C, transcreation, or D, all of the above? So, the answer is yes, it's transcreation. Okay, next. Who is the weaver of Tinalak cloth? So, kinsa man? A, is it Eduardo Mutsuk? B, is it Uwang Ahadas? C, Federico Caballero? Or D, Lang Zulay? Kinsa man, if naka-remember ta ani nga mga people. So, the answer is, yes, it is D, Lang Zulay. Okay, number 8. These are the types of print making except if naminaw budget ta unsay kain sa mga print making. So, A, unsay dili sa ila. A, relief, B, intaglio, C, engraving, or D, collage. So, klaro naman dyan unsay dili siya type sa print making. So, the answer is yes, letter D, collage. Okay. Number 9. Which of the following is true? So, A, visual arts are those museums that can be seen and which occupy space. So, correct. Performance art is an interdisciplinary art. Okay, correct also. C, Gamaba is an award that acknowledges folk and indigenous artists. Okay, correct also. So, the answer is, okay, D, all of the above. And the last question, number 10, ayakan musician who is a master of kwinsangan, kayu, and tuntungan instruments. So, A, is it Lang Dulay? B, Uwang Ahadas? C, Heja Amina Api? Or D, Azam Malik? So, the answer is, yes, the answer is D, Uwang Ahadas. That's all for the quiz of Lesson 1. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Hazel Lauman and my topic is all about the elements of art and principles of design. So, the elements of arts and principles of designs are tools that let us understand how a composition was put together. So, it's either it looks good or bad. So, some elements and principles can be used to describe all artworks, from the representational to the most abstract. So, elements of art. So, the elements of art, so it is the visual components of colors, form, line, shape, space, value, texture, and form. Then, the first one is a line. So, a line is an element of art. It is a mark made upon a surface. In order to be a line, the mark length must be longer than its width. So, there are many different types of line, including the horizontal, vertical, wavy, and the diagonal, and more. So, lines may be 2 or 3-dimensional. So, the first one is descriptive, implied, and abstract. Line is one of the most important element of art. So, imagine creating a artwork or a design without a line. So, it's very difficult, diba? So, the first dimension of the line is a descriptive. So, when we say descriptive, it tells us more about subject. This line helps us make a shape look more like 3-dimensional object by showing light, shade, and texture. So, the next one is the implied. So, money ang lines na suggested by changes in color. So, tone and texture, or by the edges of shapes. So, and the last one is the abstract. So, uses shapes, colors from form, and gestural marks to produce compositions liberated from the boundaries of the visual reality. So, the next one is shape. So, these are areas of enclosed space that are 2-dimension shapes, flat, and can only have height and width. So, all of us know what shape is. So, shape can play important roles in the creating of drawings and paintings. So, shape can help to create complex drawings and paintings. So, there are two categories of shape. So the first one is the geometric and the organic. So when we say geometric, so example of this is a circle, squares, rectangle. So that are the geometric shapes. So, and the second one is the organic shape. So when we say organic shape, it is the shape of nature. Like for example, leaves, clouds, and many more. So the next one is space. It deals with the illusion of depth on a flat surface. So the element of space can be used in three-dimensional art as well. So in space, you might overlap shapes para mura siya duol tan-awon, or imong ka ng dagkuon or mura siya duol tan-awon, or make object in the distance smaller para mura siya ka ng layo tan-awon. Imo i-distance nimo, then imo siya draw gamay yun yung pag-draw para mura siya ka ng layo tan-awon para maka-create og kanang illusion. So the next one is value. So this refers to the lightness and darkness of areas in an artwork. White is the lightest and black is the darkest. So the value halfway between this extreme is called midly gray. So value also is very important. For example, mag-drawing ka, so kinahanglan gid nimo nga kanang, di ba, na may kanang kinahanglan to mag-shades o kanang, for example, dark or light, kay para makuha na to kung unsa jud ang kuan ana niya nga sa kanang object, di ba? So the next one is the color. So is the most permanent element of design and is one of the most powerful and yet subjective elements in art. So color is important because different colors can create different mood for artworks. So that means the feeling we get when we look at a work of art. So there are three properties of color. So the first one is the hue, second one is the value, and the third one is intensity. So when we say hue, so it is the name of a color. So and then value, it is the lightness and darkness of a color. So when we say intensity, so it is the quality of brightness and purity. When it's in high intensity, so the color is bright, strong and bright. So in low intensity, so the color is faint and dull. So the next one is texture. So texture, an element of art that refers to the way things feel or look as if they might feel if touched. So the term texture describes the surface quality of an artwork. So texture is an important element of design because it engages the sense of touch as well as vision. So it's either the artwork is rough or smooth, or it's wet or dry, sticky or sleek, hard or soft, brittle or flexible. So there are two main approaches to texture. So the first one is tactile texture, or it is a physical texture. So it is an actual physical surfaces of an artwork or design. So it describes the tactile feeling you would get if you were to run your hand over an artwork. So and the next one is the implied texture. So when we say implied texture, so it is created using other elements of art, including form, line, shape, and color. So the last one is form. So an element of art that is three-dimensional and encloses volume includes height, width, and depth. Is as in a cube and sphere, a pyramid, or a cylinder. So cylinder na siya, kuwangan lang. So form may also be free flowing. So form is like a shape that has volume. Let's move on to principles of design. So when you say principles of design, it describes a fundamental ideas about the practice of visual art. So first one is balance. So the distribution of the visual weight of objects, colors, textures, and space. So if the design was scaled, these elements should be balanced to make a design feel stable. In symmetrical balance, so the elements used on one side of the design are similar to those on the other side. So in asymmetrical balance, the sides are different but still look balanced. So balance is important because this makes the composition of art stable and creates a more orderly look. The next is the emphasis. So napaday last is the radial balance. So the elements are arranged around the central point and may be similar. So Next is emphasis. So, is the part of the design that catch the viewer's attention. Usually, the artist will make one area stand out by contrasting it with other areas. The area could be different in size, color, texture, shape, and etc. So, emphasis, so mao ni siya ang mo get sa attention sa mga viewers, also used to enhance the overall message of the design. So, the next one is pattern, is the repeating of an object or symbol all over the work of art. So, pattern can enhance the user experience as well as the design and look of the final product. And most of all, it is very important para dili sila maglisod o layout sa ila design. So, the next one is repetition. Work with pattern to make the work of art seem active. The repetition of elements of design creates unity within the work of art. So, we use repetition para maka-create og sense of unity and consistency throughout a design. So, the next one is proportion. Is the feeling of unity created when all parts, size, amounts, or numbers relate well with each other. So, when drawing the human figure, proportion can refer to the size of the head compared to the rest of the body. So, proportion is the relationship of the two or more elements in a design and how they compare with one another. So, then next is variety. So, is the use of several elements of design to hold the viewer's attention and to guide the viewer's eye through and around the work of art. Then next is unity. Is the feeling of harmony between all parts of the work of art, which create a sense of completeness. So, unity and variety is important because without unity, an image or design is unreadable. And also, without variety, an image or a design is dull and uninteresting. So, that's all. Thank you. So, since we're done in our discussion about the elements of art and principles of design, so let's test ourselves if we really learned something. So, this is just a recap. So, lesson 2 quiz. So, test yourself. Multiple choice. Choose the letter of the correct answer and write it down on the space provided each item. So, question number 1. It is created when one or more elements of design are used repeatedly to create a feeling or organized movement. So, letter A, unity. Letter B, variety. Letter C, rhythm. Letter D, balance. So, the answer for this question is letter C, rhythm. So, the part of the design that catches the viewer's attention. So, letter A, pattern. Letter B, repetition. Letter C, emphasis. Letter D, balance. So, the answer for this question is letter C, emphasis. Number 3, an element of art that refers to the way things feel or look as if they might feel or touch. So, letter A, form. Letter B, texture. Letter C, emphasis. Letter D, color. So, the answer for this question is letter B, texture. So, number 4, the simplest elements of art. So, what is the simplest elements of art? Letter A, color. Letter B, line. Letter C, texture. Letter D, form. So, the answer for this is letter B, line. Number 5, the feeling of unity created when all parts relate well with each other. So, letter A, unity. Letter B, variety. Letter C, rhythm. Letter D, proportion. So, the answer for this is letter D, proportion. Number 6, the following are principles of design except letter A, balance. Letter B, pattern. Letter C, rhythm. Letter D, value. So, the answer for this is letter D, value, since value is not part of the principles of design. So, number 7, the use of several elements of design to hold the viewer's attention. Letter A, unity. Letter B, variety. Letter C, proportion. Letter D, color. So, the answer for this is letter B, variety. These are areas of enclosed space that are two-dimensional. So, letter A, lines. Letter B, shapes. Letter C, color. Letter D, value. So the answer for this is letter B, shape. So since shape is two-dimensional only. Number 9, the repeating of an object or symbol all over the work of art. So letter A, pattern. Letter B, emphasis. Letter C, balance. Letter D, unity. So the answer for this question is letter A, pattern. Repeating of an object or symbol. Number 10, the most prominent element of arts. So letter A, line. Letter B, color. Letter C, texture. And letter D, proportion. So the answer for this is letter B, color. So that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Chanity Behenteng and I am the last facilitator for Group 2. So my topic is all about Lesson 3, Reading Image and Rule of the Third. So we will begin our discussion with the two interrelated aspects in the study of art. So first is art has its specificity. So its particular language or vocabulary that has to do with the medium techniques and visual elements of art that constitute it as a distinct area of human knowledge and signifying practice. So medium technique means what are you going to use in your art. So it is oil canvas, acrylic, or drawing, or anything. Then the unique, also art has its specificity means that the unique and proper area of competence, meaning you have an area of your competence of an art, so meaning you are into painting, you are into drawing, you are into architecture. Then the form of art also corresponds with the ability of an artist to manipulate those features that are unique to nature of a particular medium. Example, performance art, painting, installation, and architecture. So the second medium or the second aspect of the study of art is is historically situated and shaped by social, economic, and political. So meaning art has its own genre, design, form, and style. Also, art conveys political, religious, and philosophical themes and judgment that arise as much as the artist's environment as they do from his or her creative impulse. So some of the conceptual forces that share their works are their teacher, the influence of preceding style, their patron, their audience, their general socio-economic, political, and social climate. So these two interrelated study in art help us to fully understand and to appreciate the art. So visual work as an economic or pictorial sign has a unique and highly nuanced meaning, and this uniqueness and semantic richness arises from the original use of the element and resources of art. So meaning visual, makita, visual work. So example, visual in nature such as painting, photography, filmmaking, and architecture. Next is the meaning of art. So art is a complex of intellectual, emotional, and sensory signification with the work conveys and to which the viewer corresponds, bringing the breadth of his or her cultural background, artistic exposure, and training and human experience in a dialogic relationship with the art of work. So the art of work is a dialogue between the artist and the viewer, and as a viewer, we respond to the message coming from the artist. So as we respond, we bring in our background, education, as to what we feel and we see of the artwork. So for example, you will see a painting of a storm and you have a experience or you are affected before by the flood. So you will have a highly emotional to the painting. So you have a conversation with the painting. So now let us move to reading the image. So reading the image is a guidelines in analyzing or interpreting image such as ads, painting, or any form of text. So there are three plane of analysis in the reading of image. So the first is the basic semiotic plane. So semiotic is the study of science. So here in the semiotic plane, you will see lines, color, and etc. So according to acclaimed art critic Alice Guillermo, the basic semiotic plane covers the element and the general technical and physical aspect of the work with their semantic. So the painting governed by principle of organization, namely there are balance, contrast, gradation, harmony, alternation, variation, and the dominance. So here the image has its color, line. So makita nato sa if you visit the museum, so you will see there lots of paintings that is kanang color, dagan mo siyang kita nga lines, dagan mo siyang kita nga color niya mo na to siya ang kanang diha gani makita og how you read it by their lines, by their colors, so naidamo na sa museum. So the second plane is the iconic plane. So according to Guillermo, well, the semiotic plane deals with the material elements of the image. Material elements is the color, the lines. The iconic plane is concerned with its particular aspect and features. In this plane, the subject and the object of the painting and their interrelationship with each other are scrutinized in detail. How the subject are chosen and the figure relates to the viewer is analyzed in the iconic plane. So iconic plane is we look at the icon or look at the image itself. So for example, you will see a painting of Mona Lisa. So in the painting of Mona Lisa, we will see the image itself, the icon itself. Makita nato si Mona Lisa. She is the icon of the artwork. So next is the last plane is the conceptual plane. So for Guillermo, resituating the work in its context will bring out the meaning of the work in terms of its human and social implication. This is where the conceptual planes comes into the picture. So this plane brings to fore the social political implication of the work. It drags out the relationship between the art and society. Further, it makes art in touch with reality. So conceptual plane is we put the work to its context and the relationship to art to its society. So damog art nga maka-relate ka kay it's reality. Realidad to siya nahitabo nga artwork. So the three planes is how you read an artwork or how you feel it. So it is up to you on unsa man imong gamiton sila, on how you're going to read it, or as an artist, is it up to you on how to prove it to your reader. So it's up to you kung you will use the basic semiotic, the conceptual, the iconic. So now, so example, assassination of the governor Bustamante by Hidalgo. So that is an all canvas painting. So its medium is all canvas painting. So unsa man ninyo pag-read ang image, how are you going to read it? So kana siya based on reality, based on what happening. So it is context, conceptual painting. So as you can see in the image, so the painting is busy with a dynamic action. As the canvas filled with the people showing how a mob is assaulting the central character. So the central character there is the Governor Bustamante. So art also is a research. You will search it on what is the meaning of that artwork. How is that?
So for the activity, let us try to analyze and interpret this painting. So this painting is entitled El 3 de Mayo by Francisco de Goya in 1814. So this painting is a real event happened in Spain. The real event happened early in the morning, but in the painting of de Goya, it happened in nighttime because night has its connotation of darkness, sorrow, gloom, and melancholy. And this theme is closely to what we see in the image. So this image is so special as to the anonymous victim speaks for all those who were murdered cold-heartedly without reason.
The rule of the thirds. Divide the picture into 9 equal parts. So the image is you need to divide the picture into 9 equal parts. And ang tawag ng red guy na cross is, ang tawag niya is focal points. So the horizon sits at the horizontal line dividing the lower third of the photo. From the upper 2/3, the three sets at the intersection of the two lines, sometimes called a power point or a crash point. Points of interest in the photo do not have actually touch of these lines to take advantage of the rule of the third. The rule of the third is applied by aligning a subject with guidelines under intersection points, placing the horizon on the top or the bottom line, or allowing linear feature in the image to flow from section to section. The main reason for observing the rule of the third is to discourage placement of the subject at the center or prevent a horizon from appearing to divide the picture itself. So, ang rule of the third is ayon siya sabton. Meaning anya is, if you want your image to be dynamic conversation or na siya dynamic conversation between the viewers and you as a artist or a photographer, dapat imo i-place ang imong subject sa any focal points except sa center. So, putting your image subject in one of these 4 intersecting points create dynamic conversation between the person viewing and the artist. So, The rule of the third is where the eye of the viewer see and connect. So if kung ang imong pag-picture is ang galing ang kanang subject is nasa center, dili na sila maka-focus sa unsa na sa background. But if the subject is maari gyud sa kilid sa the bottom or asa nasa dili sa center, so it creates dynamic conversation kay makita naman sa viewer ang background niya, kung sky ba siya is bright sky, so daghan na siya, daghan na ang viewer ma-interpret sa imong image. So the rule of the third is how you control your image, so gibuhat ni siya para pod na ang among artist is di na sila focus pero sa center. Kung mag-landscape picture na sila, dapat ang imong subject is maari siya sa kilid. So for example katong picture ganina kana siya, so kana siya makita nimo nga kana interesting kayo ang picture niya, kanay tree na ay kanang farmer, so daghan kag ma-interpreta na, unlike kung ang picture is nag-focus na siya itself sa farmer, so dili ka wala may conversation sa photographer. So that's all for my topic. Thank you. So if you have any question, kindly ask me na lang. Thank you.